Hey guys, Justin here again with Advanced Auto Clinic. Today we're going to talk to you about AC. I'm going to show you on this vehicle how we hook up to your system, how we diagnose some of the issues that you may be having with your air conditioning. I'm also going to be talking today about this machine here, which is the Robin Air. This is one of the latest and greatest machines that you can get in order to not only diagnose the AC system, but to make sure that when we replace components that your AC system is charged correctly, so that way it can work at its optimum performance. The first thing that we're going to do if we have a customer concern as far as the AC is not working or maybe it quits working after a while, the very first thing we want to do is duplicate that concern. Once we've done that, we're going to bring it into the shop. The next thing that we want to do is we're going to hook into the AC system. Your AC system uses a refrigerant. In most cases it's going to be a 134A. In new vehicles it's actually called 1234A. This particular one is 134. Again, we're going to take this machine here and we're going to hook into it. First thing I have to do is find the high and the low side ports on the AC system. Right here I have two caps. One of them is going to be the high side, one of them is going to be the low side. I'm going to remove the caps, set those aside where we know where they're at. Then I'm going to take these hoses here and we're going to connect those. Low being the blue one and high side being the red hose. Connect those to the system. Once they're properly connected, I have the machine on. I'm then going to turn these dials down, which will open up the valves in order to let that refrigerant go in here so we can measure the pressures on it. In order to properly measure the pressures, we do need to have the vehicle running. One of the things that we're looking for is there's a lot of things that can cause an AC system not to work, such as a low charge, which you may have a leak someplace, a restriction in the system that's causing your pressures to be abnormal. In order for the AC system to work, that refrigerant that's in there needs to be able to change from a liquid to a gas and back as it runs through the system at a certain pressure range. On this AC system, we're going to first check the pressures. Pressures are going to be different depending on ambient air temperature, so that's always something you need to keep in mind. If we're checking the system and it's winter time, or maybe in the fall and it's a nice cool day, those pressures are going to be a little bit lower, whereas if a day like today where it's really humid outside, we're in the 80s, you're going to be looking for higher pressures. The first thing that I want to do on this particular vehicle is we're going to start it up. Turn the AC on. The very first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to look over here and I'm going to check my pressures to see where they're at. Right now my low side pressure is over here, my high side pressure is over here. There's a lot of differences in these numbers for what you're looking at. On this vehicle we're going to look down and we're going to see if the compressor is running, which it is. So with the compressor running, we're going to then look at our pressures and try and indicate whether or not the system is functioning, whether it's a low charge that's causing the issue, whether it's a restriction in the system, and we can find all that out by using this machine. Some of the other things that we can do with this machine is if we have a component, once we find the leak, and we replace the component, we can then use this machine to evacuate all the refrigerant out of the system, and then it actually will add refrigerant. If you look here, we can add all the way up to 1/100 of an ounce, as well as into the pounds. So we can change that if we wanted to do it in pounds. Back a few years ago, when vehicles had, when we were running refrigerant in them, they were running up to 3 pounds of refrigerant in some of the larger systems. On today's vehicles, some of them are running less than a pound. And so when you're running that low of capacity in the system, it's really critical to make sure that those pressures are exactly what they should be and that the charge is exactly what they should be. In order to do that, you're going to need equipment like this. Something that you can actually type in exactly what it is. You know, if the system calls for 0.73 pounds, it needs to be 0.73 pounds. You can't, there's really no window for error there. One of the things that we use to check for a leak, we have a dye that we add to the system that we can also use this machine for. If you look over here, we have our oils. Our oil that we add, this is our drain from the dirty oil that it pulls out, and then we have our new dye, which we put into the system in case there's a leak. That'll work its way through the system and we can find it with a black light. One of the other things that we can use is actually a refrigerant detector, which is what this is here. This is also made by Robin Air. This particular system, you're going to turn it on, and once it turns on, it's going to just kind of take a quick measurement of the ambient air. And then as we go through the system, we're going to run it very slowly across every single line that we can access, as well as the condenser and the evaporator. On your AC system, there's a lot of different components that are involved in it. One of them is going to be the condenser, which is actually in the front of the vehicle. You then have the compressor, which is what does everything as far as monitoring or changing the pressures throughout the system. You then have the accumulator and the orcas tube or receiver dryer. You You can see this now just turned on. That beep means that there's no leaks. It's a steady beep like that. As you get close to a place where there may be a refrigerant leak, you'll see that start to pick up and you get a faster beep coming from it as you find the location of that leak. This works very, very well on finding leaks. It's not able to find every single leak out there, which is why we then use the dye. You also have on the vehicle the evaporator, which is going to be inside of the car, which is actually a little bit harder to access. A lot of times you have to pull the dash and everything out. So there's a lot that goes into your AC system, more than just charging it up. So, and again, if you have any questions on anything, feel free to give us a call here at Advanced Auto Clinic in Delavan. We're always here to answer your questions as well as get things taken care of for you. You guys enjoy, and thanks again for watching.